Before we begin, I need to offer you a serious warning. The story you are about to hear is one of the most disturbing true crime cases ever documented. It contains details of human cruelty that are, frankly, hard to comprehend and even harder to forget. What you will hear may shock you, it may anger you, and it will almost certainly stay with you long after this video ends. If you are sensitive to descriptions of extreme violence and psychological torment, you may want to watch this with discretion. But for those who choose to continue, you are about to uncover the terrifying truth behind a case so brutal, it forever changed how we understand the depths of human depravity. There are some cases where the name itself feels wrong. Like it shouldn't exist. The case we're discussing today is one of them. It's known around the world as the Hello Kitty murder. And I need to be very clear from the start, this has nothing to do with the innocent cartoon character. It has everything to do with one of the most brutal, heartbreaking, and disturbing crimes you will ever hear about. This isn't just a true crime story, it's a descent into the absolute worst of human nature. Our story takes us back to Hong Kong in 1999. A vibrant, packed metropolis where millions of stories unfolded every day. Most were ordinary tales of love, work, and family. This one was a descent into a darkness so profound it would shock the nation. To understand the true depth of this tragedy, we need to first understand the victim, not as a name in a headline, but as a person. Her name was Fan Man-yee. Friends and family called her Fan. She was 23 years old, with her whole life ahead of her. By all accounts, she was a kind, pretty girl who loved fashion, dancing, and the simple joy of being young. But beneath the surface, Fan's life was a struggle. She came from a broken home and had found herself drawn into the city's dangerous underworld to survive. She worked as a hostess in a Tsim Sha Tsui nightclub, a job that placed her on the razor's edge of Hong Kong's criminal scene, a world of fast money, fleeting friendships, and constant danger. It was a world where trust was a luxury and mistakes could be fatal. Fan, like many young women in her position, was trying to navigate this labyrinth, clinging to her dreams while battling personal demons, including a growing addiction to drugs. This addiction would become the thread that pulled her into a web of unimaginable cruelty, a trap set by a man for whom violence was a language. The end began with a debt. Fan was accused of stealing from a man named Chan Man-lok, a small-time triad enforcer with a reputation for brutality. The debt, whether it was money or drugs, was a sum she could never hope to repay. In May of 1999, Chan and two of his associates, the Lung brothers, Lung Xingqiu and Lung Weilun, offered her a ride. It seemed like a simple gesture, perhaps a chance to talk things out. She got in the car, a decision that would seal her fate. The doors locked. The city lights blurred outside the window. She was now a prisoner. They took her to a small, filthy apartment at 31 Granville Road in Tsim Sha Tsui. This wasn't a home, it was a cage. The windows were sealed, the air was thick with the stench of sweat and decay. Though the walls were thin, in a city that never sleeps, screams could be drowned out by the relentless symphony of traffic, chatter, and commerce from the streets below. For the next month, this tiny, suffocating room would become Fan's personal hell on earth, a soundproof chamber of horrors where humanity was stripped away, layer by agonizing layer. What happened in that room over the next 4 weeks it's the kind of thing that stains your soul just by hearing it. I need to warn you, the details we're about to discuss are extremely graphic and disturbing. The brutality inflicted upon Fan was not a momentary outburst of rage, it was a sustained, systematic, and almost ritualistic campaign of torture. The perpetrators didn't need specialized tools, they used the mundane objects of everyday life, perverting them into instruments of agony. They didn't just beat her, they worked to systematically destroy her body and spirit. They used their fists and that heavy wooden stool as bludgeons, raining blows down on her arms, her legs, her back, her face, until her body was a single, massive, throbbing bruise. They heated the metal clothes hanger until it glowed and pressed it into her skin, the smell of burning flesh filling the room. They put out their cigarettes on any patch of unburnt skin they could find. But the physical torture was only one layer of the hell they created. They used that metal spoon to gouge and scrape at her eyes, eventually blinding her. They forced her to drink insane amounts of alcohol and water until she was violently sick, then punished her for it. They starved her, watching her weaken day by day. And in one of the most profoundly degrading acts imaginable, they forced her to consume her own vomit and human waste. This wasn't just about punishment for a debt, this was about the complete and total annihilation of a human being. She was no longer a person to them. She was a toy, a thing, a canvas for their sadism. The sounds in that room must have been unbearable, the whimpers of pain, the thuds of impacts, the crackle of burning flesh, and the laughter of her torturers. It's a level of evil that is, it's difficult to comprehend, let alone describe. Sometime in June 1999, after more than a month of relentless, unimaginable suffering, Fan Man-yee's broken body could take no more. She died in that filthy room, surrounded by the men who had stolen everything from her. Her terrible pain was finally over. But the horror, unbelievably, was not. Now faced with the evidence of their crime, the killers embarked on the final, chilling chapter. To prevent identification, they dismembered her body. They severed her head. And in an act of almost surreal grotesquerie, they boiled it in that same pot, on the same stove in the same apartment where they had tortured her for weeks. They stood there, in that kitchen, as the water rolled for hours, stripping the flesh from her bones, erasing her identity in the most literal and horrifying way possible. And then, they needed to hide what they had done. In the apartment, amidst the trash and the filth, was a large, hollow, Hello Kitty stuffed toy. A global symbol of cuteness, friendship, and childlike innocence. They took Arfan's cleaned, boiled skull and stuffed it inside the hollow body of this toy. They took a needle and thread and crudely sewed the back of the toy shut, creating a macabre reliquary. And then they left it there. Sitting in the apartment, in plain sight, a perverse and silent witness to everything that had happened. A cheerful, smiling icon now housing an unimaginable secret. For weeks, the secret festered inside that apartment. The killers continued their lives, the Hello Kitty toy their gruesome trophy. But one person couldn't carry the weight of the horror. A 14-year-old girl, the girlfriend of one of the Lung brothers, was also living there. She was a child, trapped in a nightmare crafted by adults. She had seen it all, the daily torture sessions, the final, lifeless body, the boiling pot, the stuffing of the toy. The image of that Hello Kitty, and the knowledge of what it contained, haunted her every waking moment and poisoned her dreams. Finally, the dam broke. The guilt and terror became too immense to bear alone. She fled the apartment and went to the police. She was so deeply traumatized that she couldn't form the words to describe the atrocities she had witnessed. So, she did the only thing she could, she picked up a pencil and drew pictures. With a child's hand, she sketched out the torture, the layout of the apartment, and that damnable Hello Kitty toy. Armed with these chilling drawings, she led the police back to 31 Granville Road. And in that room of death, she pointed a trembling finger at the innocent-looking stuffed cat and, through tears and terror, told them the truth of what was hidden inside. The forensic team worked with a solemn, grim determination. When they carefully cut the toy open, slicing through the crude stitches, their worst fears were confirmed. The nightmare was real. The Hello Kitty, a symbol of happiness for millions of children around the world, had been transformed into a coffin for Arfan. It was a juxtaposition of pure innocence and absolute evil that would forever define this case. The arrests were swift. Chan Man-lok and the Lung brothers were taken into custody. The evidence against them was overwhelming, the girlfriend's testimony, the forensic evidence from the apartment, and the contents of the toy. In the ensuing trial, Chan Man-lok, the ringleader, was sentenced to life imprisonment. The Lung brothers received shorter, though still significant, prison terms. On paper, it was justice. But for Arfan's family, and for anyone who learned the details of her suffering, it felt hollow. No prison sentence could give them back their daughter, their sister, their friend. No punishment could erase the month of torture she endured. The conviction closed a case file, but it could never provide true closure for a loss so profound and so cruel. This case, it doesn't leave you. It lingers. It's the chilling normalcy of the weapons, a hanger, a spoon, a stool, that reminds you that evil doesn't always need a monster's face, sometimes it just needs an opportunity. It's the story of a young woman who made mistakes, like so many of us do, but who paid a price so grotesquely disproportionate it defies reason. And it's the haunting, sickening irony of that Hello Kitty toy, a symbol of everything soft and good in the world, twisted into the final resting place for a victim of the world's hardest cruelty. We tell these stories not to sensationalize suffering, but to bear witness. To remember that behind every shocking headline is a human being whose story was cut short. Fan Man-yee was more than a victim, she was a person. She laughed, she dreamed, she loved. By remembering her, and the horrifying details of her death, we affirm her humanity in the face of those who tried so hard to destroy it. We remember so that we never become numb, so that we never accept such darkness as normal. And we remember to remind ourselves that even in a world that can produce such evil, our capacity for empathy, for justice, and for remembrance must always, always be stronger.